What is going on, chums? It is Nintendo Switch 2 day. After 8 years of the original Nintendo Switch and years of rumours about Switch Pro and eventually the Switch 2, it's finally here. And it's in my hands. Well, on my table anyway. Now, you're probably thinking, why have I got it open like that? Well, that's because that's how it came. It was in a bag, and I pulled it out of the bag and it was open, and there's some superficial damage here and there, and that flap is bent, so it's clearly been opened by someone. I've been following along on social media as people receive theirs while I was waiting for mine to show up, and it sounds like a lot of people, at least here in the UK, are getting it and finding it's been opened. There is as you can see, there is a plastic seal on it, but it was cut and the box was opened. People were theorising that so they could go around putting in Mario Kart codes right at the 11th hour. I don't quite understand why that would be the case when it is the Mario Kart World bundle. I think this is the back of the box, isn't it? Let's flip it around. Yeah, so it's got the Mario Kart stuff on it, so I don't know why that just wouldn't be in there. It's not like these are non-bundled ones that they're going around and hastily throwing codes in so that they can sell them as that. But anyway, that's the front of the box. As we've seen, that was the back that we had a quick look at. The side, the other side. So yeah, that's how it came. It was a bit of a slight downer on the day one experience. You're waiting for your new console that you've been waiting a long time for, but it's all about what's inside. Also, just briefly before we move, this is a very dinky looking box. Here is a Switch 1 game case to compare it to. Pretty dinky. Alright, so here is the box within a box. I had to put my phone on wide angle, hopefully just about fitting in. It basically looks pretty much the same as the other one, so it doesn't have any Mario Kart stuff anyway. So maybe these are all just the same box and with a different outer box. So let's get into it. There's a little thing here, how to start, plug it in, and then it's telling you how to detach the Joy-Cons and everything. Alright, there it is. The Switch 2. It does look quite a bit bigger than the Switch 1. We'll do some comparisons in a minute. Let's just get it out first off. Here's our right Joy-Con. Obviously these are different from the Joy-Cons that came with the Switch 1 in that they're not coloured on the outside, they're all black, but they have these coloured parts where they slot into the system. It's looking very orange on the camera, but it does look sort of a corally red in person. And there's our left one. So they're sticking with the red and blue. Now that looks more vibrantly blue on the camera than it does in person. It's kind of a sort of pastel-y blue, I guess. They're still very thin. I think the system is basically the same thickness as the Switch 1. They feel a bit, because they're longer, they sit a bit better in my hands, which is good. Let's grab the, what did I do with them? Here they are. So yeah, quite a significant difference in size, and obviously in design and colour and everything as well. These just look really dinky now. These do feel a bit more comfortable to people with adult sized hands. My hands aren't huge, but I still found the Joy-Cons from the Switch 1 a little bit on the small side. Alright, let's go for the body of the console. You can immediately tell this is quite a bit bigger than the Switch 1. Supposedly the same thickness. It's the bottom, USB-C, top and bottom, which is very handy. That is power, volume, USB-C there, headphone jack. That's the game card slot. Oh, that's different. Got to kind of lift it out. And the bottom, just the USB-C. At the back, it's the big Switch 2 logo. Kickstand opens up quite a bit. Feels like metal, it feels cold. The micro SD express card slot is there as well. This is a lot better engineered than the OG Switch's kickstand. I mean, I never had the Lite or the OLED, so I don't know. I think the OLED had a different kickstand on it and people were quite happy with that. But that feels much better compared to the piece of crap that was on the Switch 1. Now, quick size comparison. Switch 1, Switch 2. Significantly bigger, which is good because I always found the Switch 1 a little bit on the small side, especially with these huge bezels around the screen, which I don't know if it will show up on camera until I power it on, but the bezels on this one are a bit thick at the sides, but much thinner at the top and bottom, which is good. And then obviously, you know, there's this piece of crap on the Switch 1, which doesn't do anything. Piece of rubbish that is. Let's just snap the Joy-Cons back on the Switch 1 and put it out of the way. Alright, let's check out the magnetic Joy-Cons. Ooh, don't even have to push them on, you just kind of put it near it and it'll just grab it. It's a little bit of flex. I mean, you could probably, yeah, this button here kind of pushes it off. So there's a little like pin there that comes out when you press that. Little sort of triggery button and pushes it away from the body. Can you pull them off without doing that? I feel like I'll fling the Switch across the room if I try that any harder, so I would say no unless you're very, very determined. But there it is, the Switch 2. All blue and red around the analog sticks. Same little buttons for the D-pad, which kind of suck. But you know, they'll do in a pinch, plus and minus. Home button, record button, and then the new C button there. And there it is from the back. Joy-Con off. Joy-Con on. So it makes a satisfying snap. So there is a little bit of flex there if you sort of wiggle it. But you're probably not going to be doing that too much as you're playing it. I don't think they're going to fall off while you're playing. Yeah, that's the Switch 2. Let's see what else is in the box. I'm assuming just our power adapter. Okay, there is our Mario Kart World code. Obviously by the time this video has gone up I will have redeemed that, so don't try any funny business. Important information, just like your quick start guide. Telling you about TV mode, tabletop mode and blah blah blah. We've all had Switches for 8 years, we know the drill, Nintendo. HDMI cable, because you know nobody's got 9 million of those lying around. Ooh, I forgot about these, didn't I? So one of the new things on these Joy-Cons is that you can use them as a mouse. I don't think it's going to be particularly comfortable to do so. So that's the little strap thing. Obviously you had similar things like this with the Joy-Con ones on the Switch 1 so that you didn't fling them out of your hand. You could stick it around your wrist. But also this has these little pads so you can slide it around and use it as a mouse. I think that'd be very uncomfortable trying to use the stick and the other buttons while also using it as a mouse. But I'd imagine someone's going to come out with an attachment at some point to make that feel a bit larger in your hand. got a release button. Or do you just pull it off? I think you just... appears to be a button there, but I don't know what it does. I think you just pull them off, but there we go. So there's those. Back on. And then... oh yes, I forgot about this as well. So that's the new grip. So obviously as you don't slide these ones down, they couldn't have like a curved side bit here like the Switch 1 one had, because you need to be able to stick them in from the sides. Like so. Slightly difficult trying to reach it around a tripod to do that. That feels fine, you know, it feels okay, it will do in a pinch. It's very much like the dog controller from the Switch 1. It wasn't the best thing in the world, but slightly more comfortable maybe than just holding two tiny Joy-Cons in your adult sized hands. I do also have a Pro controller coming, but the Switch 2 came via DPD, which I never have a problem with. They always turn up when they say they're going to turn up. My Pro controller is coming via Royal Mail, so it might not come at all because they've been terrible for me lately. Basically sending me lies saying they've had requests not to deliver to my address, which just means it was never actually out for delivery and they couldn't be bothered. They didn't want to mark it as undelivered and miss their thingy, their target. Anyway, I'm rambling. Here's our power. Pretty chunky USB-C AC adapter. And then a USB-C cable for it. Again, I'm sure we've all got hundreds of those lying around, even though phones don't come with them anymore. And last thing is the new dock. Let's get the polystyrene out of the way. Now obviously this is also a fair bit larger than the Switch 1 dock, which I don't have to hand, but you'll have to take my word for it. Curved back this time. Oh, that just comes off. The other one, on the Switch 1, it's on like a hinge. So this does have a fan in it as well, which you can't really see, obviously. I don't want you sticking things in fans. But you can see you've got Ethernet down there, you've got HDMI, you've got USB-C. So you can stick your cables in, and then they come out of that gap down there. So let's get it docked and have a look. The docked Switch 2. I realise my table now looks like a huge mess. Let's try and get some of this stuff out of the way. Yeah, there it is, sitting in its dock. Now, after I think probably the first year, I didn't use my Switch 1 in its dock. Pretty much at all. Pretty much used it exclusively as a handheld. But this one, you know, it's more powerful, it can output higher resolutions. So hopefully some games will look pretty good on my LGC one on the Switch 2. So I'll probably use this more docked than I did the Switch 1. And that's why I've also ordered a Pro controller, which I never bothered with for the Switch 1. But I just want to do some small size comparisons with a couple of other handhelds. So let's have a look. Okay, so obviously we've got the size comparison with the OG Switch, of which the new one is quite a bit bigger. Significantly bigger in both dimensions. This thing does feel very small these days though, to be fair. Especially in the days of big PC handhelds. So there's the Switch. One thing I will quickly do is I will, because this is actually a more meaningful comparison for me, is to take these off. Put these on, because as I say, I mainly, well, I almost entirely use my Switch 1 in handheld mode. So for comfort reasons, I got the Hori Split Pad Pro, and that has been on there the entire time I've owned the thing pretty much. So compared to that, the Switch 2 is actually a little bit smaller. But I mean, it's not really a fair comparison. Those things are enormous. And to be honest, if Hori or someone else comes up with something like this for the Switch 2, I'll probably buy that just because they sit in the hand a bit better, because they're a bit more rounded. Feel a bit more like proper controller grips rather than just like flat Joy-Cons. I also have the ROG Ally. This is the original Z1 Extreme one. Pretty similar in size, to be honest. The Ally is very slightly longer. And pretty much the same height, to be honest. This thing I do find very comfortable though, because of the way the grips are contoured and everything. It just sits really well in the hand. Whereas the Switch 2 isn't going to do that, but they've gone for slimness. I mean, let's see if I can put them up next to each other. One is very clearly much slimmer than the other. So yeah, I mean, the Switch is certainly winning that fight. Right, and then the last one we're going to look at is the Big Daddy, the skateboard, the Steam Deck, which, yeah, pretty comfortably clears the Switch 2 in size in pretty much every dimension. The thing is huge. I was looking at other forums of social media and stuff when people were, because obviously accessories came out before the console. Now obviously the Steam Deck is thinner than the Ally, but it's still a fair bit thicker than the Switch 2. So the Switch is winning that fight all the way through, although we didn't check. I didn't do a thickness check with the OG Switch, did we? They've said it's the same thickness, and I'm going to assume they're correct. Kind of hard to angle them right at the camera. Now to my eye the Switch one looks a bit thicker, but it looks on the camera that it looks a bit thinner, probably the angle I'm trying to get it at. But I think I think the Switch one looks a bit thicker just because it's shorter. But they've said they're the same thickness, so I'm going to believe them. As I was saying, people were buying cases before the Switch came out, and I saw some people saying, oh my god, the size of this case, this thing's going to be huge. And it got me a bit concerned. And then I bought a case, which I'll show you in a minute, which turned up last Thursday. And I was like, oh, this isn't huge at all. I guess those people are only sort of used to Switches and they don't have PC handhelds. Whereas I've had the deck for a little over 3 years and the Ally for a little over a year. So I'm kind of used to these very large handhelds. And this feels pretty slim and sleek to me. It does sit a bit better in the hand than the Switch one does, just because it's bigger. But it's still, I don't think it's going to be massively comfortable to grip onto, given how thin it is for sort of extended amounts of time. Okay, so this is the case I got last week for it from Savage Raven. Fairly slim line, that's what I was looking for. Get it open. So it's got like soft material inside, it's got some space for 8 Switch games, little pouch there for charging cable or something, and then obviously under that the Switch goes in there. The reason I wanted to get this one is because I have this one for my Ally, which is Skull & Co. So I was looking for a Skull & Co case for the Switch 2, and then it turns out they've rebranded as Savage Raven. So this case is basically identical in terms of sort of look and feel, materials. Obviously the insides are slightly different to fit 2 different consoles in. But that was the case I was looking for. It feels really sturdy, hard wearing, great materials. Yeah, pretty happy with it. Alright, it's taken me so long to get this video sorted today. I had a load of issues trying to record stuff and get clips off my phone. It's taken so long that everything else I was waiting for has turned up. So that is Pro Controller and also Bravely Default. So here's our first Switch 2 game. It's got the 2 on the top as well. This is a game key card, so it's got that crappy disclaimer and QR code at the bottom. And it being a Switch 2 game, it's got that massive forehead at the top as well. So again, comparing the two, I must say I much prefer the way the Switch 1 games look. They look a lot better with that art taking up pretty much the entirety of the front cover. I don't know why they just didn't stick to the little logo in the corner. It looks way better. But this, I'll say, is a game key card. You can see a little key icon on the cart on the top right corner. Nothing in there other than the red cartridge, and also there is on the inside of Bravely Default is a piece of artwork celebrating the 10th anniversary of Bravely Default, which was 3 years ago. So not quite sure about that, but there you go. There's Bravely Default on the Switch 2. I'll have to put that cartridge in at some point and prompt it to download the game. Like I said, I might have said at some point in the video. Not a big fan of the whole game keycard idea, but that's the only way you can get that, unfortunately, that or digitally. And it was 24 quid from Amazon, so I can't complain too much, I guess. Switch 2 Pro controller, again, a very small box. Kind of appreciate that they're not going for huge boxes with these things. Again, this is my first Pro controller. Didn't have one for the Wii U. Didn't get one from the Switch. I had the one for the Wii that came with Xenoblade Chronicles, and then never used it because I didn't even play Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii. I ended up emulating it on PC a few years later, and then just playing the Switch version when that came out. I can't get this out. What the hell is going on? Alright, that box did not want to give up the goods. You got the usual bump, bits of paper and such, USB-C cable, or USB-A to C. So you can plug it in if you want to go wired, I guess, or I don't know, maybe if you need to update the controller. Does anyone other than Xbox do that? Alright, let's have a look. Just straight off the bat, it feels slightly smaller than my Xbox Elite controller. Oh yeah, it's definitely smaller. The handle is very, very narrow. Feels nice though. I like the two-tone. D-pad feels okay. Sticks feel good. Way better than the Joy-Con sticks. Unfortunately, digital triggers, but rear grip buttons, which I like. That's one of the main reasons I wanted to get this, to be honest, was the rear buttons, because I have the Elite controllers for the Xbox, and I use those on my PC as well. So I'm very much used to rear buttons, and I kind of find it a bit difficult these days not using them. Not difficult, but I find it annoying. I'd rather have the extra functionality. The placement of them feels good. They're right under where your swearing finger is. They're not stiff or anything. If you squeeze the controller, you'll probably actuate them by accident, but yeah, feels pretty good to me. So that is the Switch 2 Pro controller. 75 quid. It's a very expensive controller for a sort of standard-ish controller. It doesn't have sort of metal parts like the Elite controllers do, or like the removable bits like the PlayStation 1 does. Obviously it's not anywhere near as expensive as those, but it's more expensive than those console standard controllers. But then with the rear buttons it kind of puts it somewhere in between, I guess. Happy enough with it. I got it from Very, so I've got to pay it off in 3 installments. That kind of cushioned the blow a bit. Anyway, that's that. That's the Pro controller. That is the Switch 2 unboxing. Let's move on to some games.